Civil War 2024. Many nations have had civil wars. The United States has had one in its past, but currently the buzz is we as a nation are headed back in that direction. This is the Urban Sentinel, and let's get into it. I say we as a nation in America could be heading in that direction, but it's not going to be a simple North versus South paradigm. Civil war is modern warfare. It is asymmetrical. There are multiple factions moving around at play, overlapping and interlocking like a Venn diagram. You know, the thing with the circles. You've got Democrats versus Republicans, pro-life versus pro-choice. You've got free market capitalism versus government-regulated socialism. You've got big corporations versus small businesses. You have the wealthy versus the middle class. You have the middle class versus the poor. You have high density, high population urban centers versus low density, low population rural surroundings. There are multiple angles and vectors to which contribute to what could be a civil war on the horizon. Now, external threats from other nations or hostile groups will have a moderate effect on the courses and actions within the United States. However, it's only from within that the real damage is done. It's only our own undoing here in America that could bring about a true civil war. There are a few things I'm going to run through. This is not a complete list. These are not every single possible contingency or direction that this could take. These are just a few that could have a major contributing factor in a potential civil war as we progress into 2023, moving towards 2024. The November 2022 midterm elections, plain and simple, if the current Democrat Party maintains or gains control, or even if the Republican Party gains control, you're going to see a dynamic shift in laws and regulations. And unfortunately, both political parties have been playing the same game. They simply spend their time and our resources undoing whatever it is the other party did without care or concern for the ramifications and the effects that it has down the road. Plain and simple. The pendulum gets pushed back in the other direction. So regardless of what has been done currently or in the past, it's simply a tit for tat game that the politicians play. They look to go down a long list of laws and regulations that the other side did, even if there are some benefits to it, and they simply want to reverse it. They don't provide anything more. They don't build upon anything substantial. So that political sort of tug of war just continues on. Another one, the current economic status that we're in, the high cost of goods and services is pushing more people that just 2 years ago were able to maintain a comfortable life. They were able to basically keep their head way above water, are now getting pushed further down towards the drowning point where many of them are moving into levels of near poverty, simply still being in the same position that they're in, but the cost of living through the inflationary increases is making it less sustainable as time goes on. The increasing of the current cost of living versus the increase of the rate of inflation, the expression, paying more and getting less, that is going to become the norm through this upcoming year, which is another factor that's going to start contributing towards people's views on our political standing and the direction that the country is taking. The government's healthcare system, or their healthcare ideas, however you want to phrase it, fails to adequately plan for any changes in the demographics of the country, any health concerns that arise presently or that have been lingering around, environmental issues that contribute to our national health as a whole. There is no confidence from the public in the bureaucrats' ability to assist and improve the quality of life. The overall consensus is when the bureaucrats are up against the wall because they lack a good plan, it becomes a do as I say situation where they no longer look for any input, suggestions, or help from the public as a whole. Another topic, security. Plain and simple, people don't feel safe. You look at the current level of crime across the country, it's at an increase. You can go through charts and you can nitpick and you can find that sweet spot that says, oh no, crime is going down progressively since this point here. Certain types of crime, absolutely. Certain areas that have seen crime, sure. But there's also an increase in the severity and the intensity of the crimes when they occur. So you might have a decrease in certain low-level crimes in one area, but a sharp increase in the same crimes in another area, and more violent crimes and more reactionary crimes when they do occur. That type of thing puts citizens on edge, because if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel safe in your home, on your street, in your town, in your state, you start looking for one, where can you go? And many people don't have an option. They are where they're at, and there's nothing they can do about it. So you start looking at who is responsible or who is being irresponsible within that effect. And again, it starts looking at the bureaucrats and the politicians. And those tend to be the primary targets where any anger and any frustrations are taken out on, because those individuals, although they may have campaigned on a platform to benefit the people, or they were appointed to their position by a higher authority to assist and improve conditions, they tend to turn a blind eye and plug their ears when the fact that they are failing, that they are inept in their actions, becomes brought to light. And we see this over and over again. A politician, administrative person will be asked a straightforward question about a plain and simple situation going on, and they will dance around that subject as best they can, or they will completely avoid it, or they will take that table and turn it on the people asking the question, as if to say, this is not the problem I created, this is the problem that you have before you. You need to handle it. Simply put, more crime, as crime increases, decreases, lowers the quality of life for individuals. And those individuals become, in effect, a large wave that ripples out, overlapping into other areas in our society. Now, no single event will cause a civil war. There are going to be multiple points along a timeline that will contribute and that add up. And once that threshold is reached, then the reaction occurs. 2023 will be very similar to 2022, but what you'll see are all of the events that have been going on presently in this year multiplied. More of them, they'll be bigger, they'll be more intense, and that is what builds towards the 2024 point, the pinnacle, the peak of where our country as a whole could be heading. Is it going to tip and fall over the edge, or is it going to maintain and hold right at the apex of that conflict, of that strife, until it can either be brought back down and reduced? So I feel that with 2023, it will be pushing the limits of the common civility amongst the population. You're going to see a lot more of the dramatic. Riots will no longer be disguised as protests. Looting will no longer need to be prompted or promoted. It is just going to be an ongoing thing. Surveillance and security and restrictions of movement of people, not just by the government, but by private organizations, will become more widespread. You will find that your natural freedom to go as you want, do as you want, even with no harm to anyone, is going to be greatly curtailed. Jobs and the employment market, they're going to be moving in and out like the tides, and you're going to have a lot of desperate people looking to ride the wave of the next new employment trend, to cash in on that next new high income, fast money game, because they're running out of options and they're looking for anything that will help them stay afloat and survive everything that's going on. And the natural distrust of politicians and the political body as a whole continues to grow. And it also is increased through the NGOs, the non-government organizations and large corporations, which they by themselves act as their own authorities in many cases, and they make their plans and they have their strategies for their success and their survival, irregardless of what it does to other people or how it affects the nation as a whole, because they can afford to get out of Dodge if things go wrong. Overzealous bureaucrats, corruption scandals, will form rifts between allies and even the most ardent supporters. Strife and conflicts abroad will have Americans resentful about the aid and the attention that other countries are getting from our government rather than paying attention to us as citizens. The dissatisfaction turns into both actions in the voting booth, but also on the street. Several incidents can occur that can bring confusion within this whole process, but deep within that confusion, chaos is growing. And once that chaos is springing up and comes to light, there may not be an opportunity to effectively cut it off and stop it at that point in time. So you continue to watch everything that occurs, all the events that are going on, and you start seeing these small little patterns in the news, in social media and things like that, and you'll spot the dissent and the dissatisfaction and disapproval from this country as a whole. You'll see it move in small ripples here and small ripples there, but it's a progressive wave that is spreading all across the country. It's moving in a manner that there isn't going to be a safe spot or a safer spot to be in, because every single inch, every single state, every single area is going to be affected one way or another. The political stage, as it were, has always been set. It's always there. It's always up and running. The carousel of the talking heads, the bureaucrats and the politicians rolling in and out, giving you the same song and dance, telling you the things that they think that you want to hear, even when clearly you're no longer listening to them. That's going to continue. It's just simply going to be the show that they put on to keep you distracted as best they can while they make more changes backstage. And that's the facts of the matter as it is. A civil war in the United States is a possibility if all of those pieces fall into place. It won't be pretty, but it never is. Anyway, give the algorithm some work to do. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.